Hi, everyone. May peace be on you all, and welcome to another episode of I'm a Muslim and That's Okay. And as always, it's your host, Shayla, and I'm back with this season very first Gift of the Gab. And I have with me with my friend Jessica Elgamil. We first met on a women's retreat, and I'm so happy that we kept in touch because Jessica has just come back from Egypt. You went there in a volunteer mission. That's why I have you here. I think it's so important to get those perspectives. But before we get into that, please tell us a little more about yourself. What do you do?
Sure. So yeah, my name is Jessica. I live in New Jersey. I'm a mom of three. I would consider myself a self-proclaimed retired um, corporate HR to
Wow.
yoga teacher. Yeah, I know it's like polar opposites, but it happened. The universe pushed me in this direction. I had been working in HR, executive management for different kinds of nonprofits over the years. Um, and my last position as a senior HR manager for diversity, equity, and inclusion last year at Rite Aid was what propelled me into this last 6, 7 month journey that allowed me to be able to go to Cairo for this ground mission
Mhm.
when the company went into bankruptcy and laid all of our department off.
Oh, wow.
So when that happened, I was like, where's the universe sending me after this?
Right.
What does God have in store for me? And it turned out that I was going to shortly after that I was going to get my yoga teaching certification, which I had wanted to do for a while, but I didn't have the time.
Right.
I had been practicing yoga for since college, let's
Mm.
say 20 years. And finally, I said, you know what? I'm going to do something that I really enjoy. And something inside of me said, I'm going to use this for helping others
Right.
in service of others. I didn't know how, or where. And then shortly around that same time was when the war
Mm.
was unfolding
Right.
in Palestine.
Right.
So I started thinking, what can I do? What more can I do? What else can I do? Um, I'm feeling very helpless here
Mm.
in New Jersey, seeing everything unfold overseas. And I kept keeping my heart open and my mind open and my hands open and thinking, what else can I do? I just remember I kept asking myself, like, what else can I do?
Right.
And I was I think I was following some people who started going to Cairo
Mm.
on social media, and I was like, what's going on in Cairo? Because I'm actually Egyptian. I was
Mm.
born and raised in New Jersey, but my family, I'm a first generation Egyptian
Mm.
American. My dad is Egyptian, my mom's Irish American. So I had been, pretty frequent visitor of Egypt over the years. Um, but like family and friends that are Egyptian didn't really know what was going on in Egypt. I only knew through social media there were a lot of international people and volunteers going into Cairo.
Right.
Um, and that's when I started to see that there wasn't much we could really do in Gaza.
Mm.
And we started to see that the world around us was powerless.
Mm.
So I was like, what can I do? Again, that question kept popping up in my head, like, what can I do?
Right.
And being that I had more time on my hands, I wasn't working.
Right.
Um, I was home with my kids,
Mm.
and the opportunity to go to Cairo came up. My dad was at one point saying, "Hey, I'm gonna go to Egypt for Ramadan," and I was like, wait a minute." Some of the stars started to align,
Right.
and I was like, "Okay, you're going to Egypt. There's a lot of opportunity to help over there,"
Right.
because we started to learn that really the only opportunity for people to get out of the occupied territory was through the Rafah border
Right.
into Egypt.
Right.
And I started seeing that people were mobilizing. They were getting into Cairo from the international community and bringing in donations,
Mm,
helping the displaced families. And I thought, I mean, this is something I can do. I can do this.
right.
So that was what that's how this little seed sort of was planted in my journey.
Right, right. But it takes a lot to just get up and go. And especially you said that you went with your kids. And I'm like, wow. So, I mean, what were you hoping to be able to do there? How did you get there with your kids? And what did you experience, especially when visiting the refugees, Palestinian and Sudanese refugees that have sought refuge in Egypt?
So interestingly enough, when I started fundraising,
Mm,
about I started fundraising about a month before Ramadan.
mm,
And as I had mentioned earlier, I have built some trusted relationships
right,
with different nonprofit organizations like PAC Center in New Jersey, Palestinian American Community Center, excuse me, and lots of different kinds of um, community members from not just the Muslim community, but all walks of life that really cared
right,
about what was going on. And I think that was maybe one of the first times people heard that there was an opportunity to help
right,
other than other than sending money out into the universe and not knowing
right,
where it would go,
right,
if it was even going to get into Palestine,
right,
which at that time it wasn't.
right.
So my original goal was, in my mind, I thought, hey, if I can raise $2,000,
Mm,
I'll be very blessed and happy to
right,
go to Egypt
right,
and bring these donations over to the displaced families.
hmm,
And maybe I'll pay for some groceries, maybe I'll pay for some rent.
right.
And what ended up happening was, by the grace of God, by nothing less than a miracle, I raised over $30,000 before I
Wow,
left for
wow,
Cairo.
that's amazing.
Yeah, I was floored by people's generosity and
Mm,
their genuine kindness
right,
and their genuine trust,
mm,
because I don't have a nonprofit organization. I don't have an EIN tax ID.
right,
I don't even have an organization. It was just me.
right,
It was just me. It was just Jessica saying, "Hey, I'm gonna take your donation in my hands and bring it to a family,
right,
and it's an amana, a trust."
right, right.
That's all I had. That's
Mm,
all I had. And people trusted in me, which was like an amazing, amazing blessing.
mm.
And I took the donations, and it wasn't easy, because I'm sure you know that it's not easy to get money into
Oh
Egypt.
yeah,
It's not easy
or
to get
anywhere.
money into
That's a
Egypt at
big
all.
amount of money. It's not like maybe like five. It's not even like $5,000, $6,000. It's a big amount. So getting it anywhere
Yeah.
in an international setting, it's tricky. Like at the border, if not nobody else, like you have to pay duties and all these foreign taxes and so on and so forth.
Yeah. And also, I didn't just go there with monetary donations.
Mhm.
I had been given boxes and boxes of pharmaceutical
Oh
donations,
wow.
pharmaceutical supplies,
Mm,
um, that I ended up going to Egypt with about 9 suitcases. Now, going back to my kids, I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old and a
wow.
14-year-old. So I brought the 2 younger ones with me,
Right.
from the get-go, and then my son joined us at the end after school ended. Um, but I was too afraid to bring the money with me
Right.
in on my person through the airport, because I have like these toddlers. I have 9
Yeah.
suitcases with me. Like, it's like other people's donations. I
Right.
was too fearful. So we ended up doing different kinds of bank transfers. We had
Mm.
a lot of people who were very, very generous with us, who had money already in Egypt.
Ah, I see.
And that was the main source of being able to transfer the money, is
Mm.
that people, friends and family members, already had the money in Egypt.
Oh wow.
So I was able to do it that way. Any other way would have been impossible.
Right.
That large amount, there would have been no other way.
Right.
um so yeah, so we got there right in the beginning of Ramadan,
Mm.
and I joined a a group of other individuals that were part of the mission. Now, I'm not sure if you or the community listening knows this, but we're not allowed to organize in Egypt. We're not allowed
Mm.
to fundraise. We're not allowed to give out
Oh,
donations. We're not
wow.
allowed to mobilize. It's illegal.
Oh, wow.
We're not allowed to do any of those things.
Right.
So it's safety risk for not only for the volunteers but also the Palestinians
Right.
receiving, because I don't know if you're familiar with there was a black market issue with dollars because of the
Mm.
influx of refugees coming in, and people were fundraising GoFundMe's left and
Right.
right. So there was an influx of dollars coming in, i- and the economy was sort of being tilted upside down.
Right.
Um, so very, very, very risky
Mm.
to hand anybody dollars, even to be walking around with the US
Oh,
dollars
yeah.
is very risky.
Mm.
So we didn't want to put any of the families at risk.
Right.
So we had to be very intentional in how we did it.
Mm.
Most of the time, we would go through, first of all, we have to change all the money into Egyptian
Egyptian
currency. That's
currency.
first of all.
Right.
And then of course being very careful and intentional in how we do it. We have an intake process where we would get families that were applying, so to speak, for support
Right.
and help. And then we would vet the families by going out to their homes,
Mm.
meeting them in public places, interviewing them, interviewing their family members, checking their documentation. We would check all their visas to make sure that they were in fact refugees.
Right.
Because again, this isn't a man, and there are people who have lived in Egypt, excuse me, for generations.
Mm.
And we just wanted to make sure that we were helping the people who really came over
Right.
through the evacuation process.
Right.
And then we would sort of determine their need based on the demographic that they were in, whether they were living with family or
Mm.
maybe they were by themselves, medical condition, where did they have to pay for medications? Were they living in the hospitals? What was their family composition? Are there
Right.
four kids? Is it are they are there are there are they orphans? Like,
Right.
all we took all this information into consideration when determining, how we were going to support these families. Um, we got to a point where it was starting to become unsustainable for people because the biggest issue was rent. People were facing homelessness, and
Oh.
it became unsustainable for people to just be like, here's money,
Right.
here's money, here's money, here's money. And it's like, we started at one point brainstorming as a group, like, okay, how can we create like long-term sustainability without just being like, hey, here's money to pay your rent?
Right. Right.
Because fundraising started to become more difficult
Right.
and more difficult
Right.
and more
Right.
difficult.
And that's the thing. What most people don't realize is when you're a refugee, it's much harder to get a job in the country where you are. So I mean, that's the thing. As they say, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you give refugees money, it only lasts so long. So if you could tell us, like, again, what were some of the things that you as a group, like the volunteer groups, did to sort of overcome these things? Because again, the need is there, and people can throw money at it as much as they want, but it's not a long-term solution.
So one of the things I just want to mention is, when anybody comes to Egypt as a refugee with a refugee status,
Right.
they are not allowed to legally work.
Oh, wow.
Their kids cannot go to school,
Oh,
public school.
wow.
They cannot receive social services. They cannot receive assistance. Not that there is any,
But still,
like we have here,
but still,
They can't tap in. They can't tap into any support systems in Egypt.
but that's the thing, the very basic, money earning situation is like even if you like skip out school and all of these things, if you can't get a job, how else are you able to support yourself? So how does it work out for refugees then? What are they supposed to do?
So that's the $1 million question that we've all been sort of grappling with for the last 8, 9 months. It's like, You don't want to leave a person stranded
Right.
and say, "Hey, go figure it out." You can't,
Right.
right? Um, at the same time, you're thinking, what are things that we can do to create, say, sustainability? Some of
Right.
the things we started, some of the initiatives that we started were we were pairing up mentors that would help build their resume, create like job, like sort of like workforce development, skill building.
Mm.
ESL,
Right.
we were connecting people here that wanted to teach English, sort of helping them to build some transferable skills so that maybe they could like work a remote job,
Mm.
digital marketing, um even encouraging the families to find something in regards to working in Egypt, but that was tricky because of the fact that they really couldn't work legally. So it's like you're encouraging people to like go out and find like an under the table kind of cash job where they're going to be taken advantage of. They're already being taken
Right.
advantage of by the sense of the landlords were overcharging them for rent.
Oh, wow.
There's a big major housing crisis in Egypt right now because these landlords are really creating an opportunity here where they can say an apartment that may have cost 5,000 Egyptian pounds, which is about $100 a month, is now maybe 15,000, which
Oh,
is four or
wow.
$500 a month. And there's no way, there's no regulation, there's nobody to stop it.
Right.
And they know that they're going to get the money. They know that people are fundraising. They know that people are doing GoFundMe's and they're bringing in the dollars.
Right.
So they're looking at this as an opportunity.
Right.
Um, so it's like, are we going to ask people to go out there and get taken advantage of, get paid less,
Mm.
probably work more?
Right.
They're getting paid under the table. And a lot of these families are not physically well.
Mm.
They've just come out of a
I
war.
think that's the other question I wanted to ask is that again, they're refugees, but like most people don't have this in their mind that refugees come in really very poor states. Doesn't matter where they're coming from, especially from a war zone, from Sudan, from Palestine. It has an impact. If you could like speak to like some of the things that you observe with amongst the refugees as well, because it's important for people to realize just because they're out of their war torn country, it's not like the impacts of it don't really leave you that quickly.
Beyond the acute trauma
Mm.
that, of course, these families have already faced and experienced and continue to experience, we have sort of a situation where the the families that were able to evacuate,
Mm.
and this is not all families, but the majority that were able to evacuate, they were business owners. They were doctors.
Right.
They were lawyers. They were professionals.
Right.
They lived a lifestyle that most of us would say a great, a great
Oh
lifestyle
yeah.
over there.
Right.
They were able to get the money together
Right.
to come, to evacuate because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but it was 5,000 a child, 10,000 an adult,
Oh wow. Yeah.
and it was USD,
Oh wow.
and the money had to be new. They don't play around.
Oh
They
wow.
they they are not messing around. I mean, the border's been closed now for about 3 months, but before it closed, this was how it was going. Um, so so the thing is, the families that were in Cairo, they're not used to. They're not gonna. I'm not gonna say they're not going to, but it's gonna be difficult for a radiologist who's been evacuated to now go work as like a dishwasher.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, no, I get
So
that.
this is part of it. This is part of it. And then the other part is physical, psychological, emotional. I mean, I had met with one particular family that the husband and wife were evacuated and they lost both of their kids
Oh wow.
in one of the airstrikes. They're not going to turn around and go work right now.
Right.
They're grieving
Right.
a major loss in their life. They can't. They're holding on,
Mm.
you know, probably by the grace of their faith, and
Right.
and it's like they're not going to go look for a job right now.
Right.
It's very, very, all the circumstances are very difficult. And I'll be honest with you, the Egyptians living in Egypt, they're like, they're not like, they're not really aware about what's going on. They're not welcoming. They're not trying to, fundraise. They're not trying to welcome. They're not trying to help because they've got their own economic crisis going on.
Right.
So it's like they're not going to really lend a helping hand, and they're the ones who are the business owners. They're the ones who are the landlords. They're the ones who would be saying, "Hey, let me
Hmm.
hire somebody." Um,
Right. Right.
my own family didn't know why I was doing what I was doing there. They're like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "This is what I'm doing." And they're like, "What families?" They didn't even know that there were
Oh,
displaced refugees
wow.
living in Cairo. Yeah.
Ay, it's under strange circumstances we exist, Jessica. It's so much different forms of tragedy of our human existence. Um, but yeah, not and this is not as a form of blame for how it was in Egypt. I mean, I'm not talking about the government, but everyday people, because everyday people are also like, just like everyday people within the US, they're struggling with their everyday things as well. But again, I think what you went there to do, it was so incredible. I mean, I remember you posting, different, I think, envelopes which were decorated and
Yeah.
dedicated for charity and donation. I thought that was so amazing. So I mean, you went there and now you're back. What was the big, I mean, I'm gonna start with your kids. What is the biggest takeaway they got from the entire 6 months, I guess, mission?
Yeah. And by the way, I took my kids with me
Right.
to
Oh,
families'
okay. Yeah, yeah.
homes
That's great.
that were appropriate.
Yeah, yeah.
That were appropriate.
Right.
Um, because if I found that that family had a few kids of their
Right.
own, and my kids here in New Jersey, they used to go to Islamic school.
Right.
And that Islamic school was all Palestinian teachers and families going there.
Right.
So even before we left for Egypt, they knew about what was going on in Palestine.
Right.
And my 5-year-old used to say, "Are we going to go see the my cousins in Palestine?" Like she had no
Aw.
clue what was like the difference between Palestine and Cairo, and
Right, right.
like you know and I would tell her, "Yeah, we're going to go see your cousins in Palestine." But I took my kids with me to families that were appropriate, so that they could be able to share in this journey. I don't know if they'll ever remember it. Hopefully they will
Mm.
have some impact on them one day. Um, but I think for my kids, the biggest takeaway for them would have been really just being able to learn a little bit of Arabic,
Mm.
um, meet families that were from Palestine,
Right.
learn about what it's like to live in another country, because we were living there. I mean,
Right.
after 2 weeks, that vacation vibe is up.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not on vacation anymore.
Right.
So and then my son came, who's 14, and towards the end of the summer, and he got, I think, a good picture of what it's like to live in third world country and
Right.
see about what it and 2 hours a day, there's no electricity, there's
Right.
no
Right.
water,
Right.
there's no AC
Right.
for that duration of the 2 hours of the day, because they have like a electricity problem
Mm.
over there. And it's 108 degrees. So there was a new profound appreciation for a lot of probably the things, the benefits of living in the States for
Right.
him, being a teenager.
Right. Right.
Um, I think for me, the biggest takeaway that I really absorbed being able to be part of this experience, because I still think back, like, how did I do this? Why did I do this? Where did this idea come from? And it's like sometimes you just don't know. You just something kind of pops in your head,
Right.
and it's like meant to be. It's like God, the universe,
Mm.
your own will of manifesting what you want in your life some once in a while, like, all works out.
Right.
And in this case, that's pretty much what happened for me. I think my biggest takeaway after being able to participate and just be part of this opportunity would just was the awe in being really truly in awe of these families that have been through so much, yet they are so humble.
Mm.
They're so giving. Like every house, every family that I went to, they won't let you leave till they feed you, till they give you tea, till they
Right.
give you gifts. Like this was a
Oh,
gift from
wow.
one of the family.
Right.
Um, and they don't they don't let you go without
Right.
feeling like you're part of the family.
Right.
You've eaten msachen, you're
Mm.
like stuffed to the gills with like amazing Palestinian food. And it's like, wow, you're giving to me and you look what you've gone through.
Right. Right.
And it's like a testament to their will, to their resiliency, to their faith, to
Right.
their just all the things that I believe after experiencing um third, I guess you could say, third party trauma through people who have gone through a war and just being very close to it. um you know Humanity, just the basics of humanity is something that not everyone will achieve in this life.
Very true.
And hopefully that doesn't come out as a negative in a way.
Like I said,
But that
Jessica, considering what we're observing right now, I would tend to agree with you. But
because when you kind of do these things, you do isolate yourself in a way,
right.
and you become that, like, hmm, what is she doing? Why is she doing?
Right.
What was she doing this for? It's like all these weird kind of thoughts get projected on you, and it's like, I know why I'm here, but um so you see that part of it. You
Right.
see that part of it where, wow, humanity is not something that everybody will achieve in this lifetime. Um but at the same time, you know, really, like, just having the utmost faith in Nasib and
Mm.
the power of prayer, and knowing that something is meant to be, it will be, and just being sort of like a conduit for answering a prayer for somebody in this
Right.
life. Like, even up until the last days that I was there,
Mm.
I had decided that the last 2 weeks I was in Egypt, I was going to dedicate to taking my son around Egypt, because I hadn't done anything yet. I'd been there
Oh,
5
wow.
months and I hadn't done anything.
Right.
I had not done anything. Um, because doing that work is very extremely time consuming. It takes
Right.
weeks just to get the money over, change it,
Right.
schedule your families, go out to the families. It's very, very extremely time consuming.
Right.
And then once you do it, it's very heavy. Like, you need to take a break for like a week, and then you start again.
Right. It
Because
takes a
every
toll
time
on
you
a
go out,
person.
yeah, every time you meet a new family, they share their story with you.
Right.
And you are not, like I said, you're not just there to say, here's the money. You
Right.
want to you want to be a part of their story,
Right. Right.
in some good way. Um so even up until the last days, I said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm
Right.
exhausted.
Right.
I'm done. Like, I'm not fundraising anymore. People were still sending, by
Oh,
the way, people
wow.
still sent money up until the last days I was there. People are still sending money till now.
Oh, wow.
And I'm still able to give, but it's like, even towards the end, people were saying, can I still send? Can I still send? And I'm like, I can't say no. My heart doesn't let me say no,
Right.
because I know people need it,
Right.
you
Right.
know? But even until the second to the last day that I was flying, my suitcases were packed. I was out visiting families. And it wasn't because I was pushing it.
Mhm.
This was like God's will at the end. It
Mm.
was like, your work is not done. Your work is not done.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was a humbling experience, and I think I tell people my DNA is changed, has
Mm,
definitely changed throughout this um short period of time. A lot of things don't bother me anymore.
mm,
A lot of things don't penetrate me, don't affect me, because I've seen what's what's really like the meaning of life.
right, right,
What's what really matters.
right.
Um, yeah.
Mm. And again, it takes a whole lot of, I mean, they say that the word gumption in English. I think that's part of it, but you really have to have that really strong will to go and do what you did. And I think, I mean, again, on behalf of all of us, you did an amazing, I mean, not just you, but all of the people that were volunteering there for the refugees. It's just such amazing work. But how do you think that now, the border is closed, how can people help the refugees that are there and do something meaningful? I mean, I don't know. Are you still accepting donations, Jessica? I mean, I could have a couple of hundred people come your way. No, but seriously, what can be done, especially in the circumstances that you've described, that it's so difficult, especially in Egypt, to be able to get all of this done.
Yeah, I would say if I could go back in time, I don't know if I would necessarily do it again with my kids and for so long.
Right.
Because it's extremely heavy. It's and I'll be honest with you, fasting in Ramadan
Oh
in the
wow.
100-degree heat
Yeah.
with my kids in the Uber after Uber
Right.
after Uber, because I don't drive in Egypt and nor would I recommend it, but um and just all the things that any basic third world country will kind of
Right, right.
wear you down with everything you try to do. It's like door closes, door closes, door closes. um but here's a couple of things that people can do, right?
Mm,
And it doesn't necessarily mean opening your wallet.
right.
Okay, of course, there's opportunities to give in donation and zakat and charity.
Right.
This is always like the option. To me, this is the easiest option.
Right.
I can just open my bank account, send it, Venmo, Zelle, PayPal.
Right.
Here you go. You know, and just about the envelopes, just to mention,
Mm,
I was writing, if somebody donated $50 or more, I was writing their name and a message
right.
on their
Right,
envelope
right.
with the donation and bringing it to the families. And I'll tell you what, sometimes those messages meant more than the money.
Right.
So, okay, so the money, of course, is in my opinion the easiest and the fastest, and but also helpful, very extremely helpful,
Mhm.
because again, people are facing homelessness. They need to pay their rent. They need to buy groceries. They need
Right.
to buy medicine.
Right.
They need to be able to pay for their surgeries. Um, like we even paid for births, deliveries, like
Mm,
some amazing things that were
right.
serious blessings, like I'll never forget. Um, but at the same time, there's a lot of things that people can do that are not financial based. If you work for a company that could possibly hire a Palestinian, encourage encourage your company, or maybe if you're a business owner, that you'd be willing to hire Palestinian
Right.
to do um like digital marketing or remote work.
Right.
Any If you know people who are hiring,
Right.
if you know companies that would be willing to sponsor, hire for work, if you know people overseas that would be willing to
Mm,
maybe sponsor or help people get work anywhere in the world,
mm,
like get them out of Egypt.
right.
So that's one thing. The other thing is amplify their voices. If a family reaches out to you on Instagram, because this happens to me every day,
Mhm.
and says, "Hey, can you share my link?" It doesn't cost you anything to share their link
For sure.
on your social media. Share it with your friends, amplify their voices.
Mhm.
Um, the other thing you can do is when they have a call to action, like an organization out there has a call to action, and if you're following them on social media, example, resume building,
Mm,
transferable skills, mentorship, ESL, anything that would require an hour of your time a week.
mm,
This is something that you can do.
right,
Um, and then also, if you don't, I mean, if you can't donate, like sharing that opportunity with somebody that you think might be able to.
right,
We
right.
always have that somebody that we know is
Well,
like
yeah,
wants to help,
right, yeah.
and usually doesn't say no.
Mm,
Pass it on.
right,
Pass it on to them.
right.
And you get the blessings too. If
You're
they
right.
donate, you get the blessing. You get
Yeah.
the blessing. Um so yeah, there's that, and then okay, there's always that ultimate get on a plane fundraise, get on a plane with $10,000 and go to Cairo.
Mm,
If I could do it with two kids, and I want to tell you the volunteers that are there, they're warriors. They're
wow.
truly, most of them are not Muslim and most of them are not Arabic.
Oh, wow. No, I
90% of the volunteers are non-Muslim, non-Arabic speaking people that just want to help.
right, right. And again, all of these things are so important for people to remember. Like, I mean, again, as you said, if you have opportunities for refugees in Egypt, just pass that information along or reach out to, to Palestinians, or if they reach out to you in some way, help them. Um, I mean, donations are always a great way, but like it's not just what we think. It's like even just the small things, skill building, resumes, all of these things make an impact for people
Yeah.
who are struggling to get the basics that they need. I'm so grateful, Jessica, that you shared all of these things. That's the thing. Like, we don't, like, when we're sitting here, we only see a small part. I mean, I'm not saying that it's the part that we see isn't important, but there's so much impact that comes with a war. Refugees, not just within the war torn areas, but also outside that need our help. And I'm so glad that you went and told us about all of this. Please let my audience know where they can find you, reach out to you, and I don't know, donate
Sure.
some more.
Sure. I'm on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Jessica Elgamil.
Mm,
It is my return to heart space yoga safe space where I amplify opportunities to give,
right.
to share, to meet other families, to do different kinds of things. Like I said, share your talent.
Mm,
Somebody has a talent and they want to be able to share it and to help a family, they're more than welcome to do so. Like I took my yoga practice and I sort of turned that into an opportunity to have like donation based classes
mm,
here, over Zoom, over there. So it's like instead of just saying, "Hey, give me $1," be like, "Hey, donate to this class and you get this, nice spiritual mind body
right.
yoga class out of it."
Right.
People can do that.
Of
If they
course.
have a skill, if they've got a talent, they can do that. Um, Also, the one of the main ground teams that I've really learned to trust and put my faith in is Egyptians for Palestinians.
Mm,
They are a nonprofit that formed internationally, and they do more than just fundraise.
mm,
They do community building.
right.
They do community engagement.
Mm,
They're doing art therapy.
mm,
They're doing um, cooking classes. Learn how to
mm,
cook a Palestinian meal.
right.
And that to me, after being there for quite some time, I realized that yes, the money is great. I mean, you need it to live, but that community building
Right.
has a great impact
Right. Right.
on children,
Mm,
on families, on parents who are like, my kids have been cooped up in this house. They can't go to school. We can't go anywhere. What can we do? And then, like, here's like an Eid event for the kids that we host,
right.
or a family day at the farm,
Mm,
things like that. It's like, if you care about that kind of thing, like, again, this is going beyond the dollar. This is about being part of humanity, a
right.
community. It's like
No, for sure.
that.
your
Yeah.
link and their link in my show notes as well, and they can see that on the screen as well. Thank you again so much,
Okay.
Jessica. I mean, your
Thank you.
experiences and you sharing your experience is invaluable to us. So thank you to everybody who's listened in and watched us on YouTube. Y'all take care of yourself and may peace be on you all.